Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a profoundly grim, dark, mythic fable drawn directly from our source text, and we're going to use this incredible narrative as a practical exercise. It's essentially a guide to understanding a really vital psychological framework, how confronting our own internal demons is actually the only true path to total self-sovereignty. This isn't your typical everyday story of good triumphing over evil. It's a deeply Nietzschean journey of alchemy, a process where the absolute darkest parts of ourselves literally become the fuel for our highest evolution. So, picture this. Our protagonist, who we only know as the Wanderer, is standing right at the edge of this uncanny whispering forest. In his hand, he's gripping the brush of his own will. He is standing right before the blank canvas of his potential, just about to strike the very first line of his identity. Now, he's seeking absolute self-sovereignty, right? The ultimate freedom to define his own existence. But before he can even make that first mark, he is interrupted by a presence he has spent his entire life desperately trying to escape. Out of nowhere, the shadow, this internal devil he's been running from forever, just glides past him. It fixes him with a gaze that pierces right through to the raw, naked impulse of his heart. And with a grating voice that sounds like cracking wood, the shadow issues this chilling warning. It hisses, "I will be waiting in the starry abyss." It tells our wanderer that if he tries to paint only decorative shrouds of his ego, he's definitely not going to create a masterpiece. Actually, he'll just end up creating a self-inflicted wasteland. Now, what's absolutely fascinating here is that this concept fundamentally redefines our entire understanding of darkness. See, the shadow isn't a villain trying to destroy the wanderer, not at all. It is the necessary friction. It acts as a massive evolutionary catalyst. What the shadow does is subject our unexamined everyday thoughts to the atavistic fires of absolute truth. Its ultimate purpose is actually to save the sovereign mind from psychological death, basically stopping us from settling for comfortable little lies and forcing us right into the crucible of evolution. Okay, let's look at the first major hurdle on this journey, the trap of staged tragedy. As the wanderer steps deeper into that uncanny forest, he stumbles upon a sorcerer lying trembling in the damp moss, just reciting these poems of staged tragedy to garner pity. He's mimicking the struggles of a higher man, but really, it's just a show to hide his own cowardice. This right here is the shimmering oasis of the ego. It's performative grief, and it's designed to trap the wanderer in this endless cycle of social conformity and mutual stagnation. We really have to contrast this incredibly comfortable oasis against the atavistic fires of truth, which demand genuine introspection and some deeply painful internal sacrifice. I mean, think about it. A beautiful tongue is totally meaningless if the mental silence beneath it just remains a breeding ground for maggots, a mind filled with unconfessed malice. To actually evolve, our wanderer has to completely reject the sorcerer's whine of total despair. He has to flat out refuse to be the audience for this magician's cowardice. Because genuine growth, it doesn't come from putting on a performance for others. It requires facing the brutal truth when literally no one else is watching. Moving deeper into the darkness, we uncover the Bone Willow's secret. So deeper in the forest, the wanderer stands before the Bone Willow, Die Knochenweide. It's this ancient, imposing entity guarding a pitch-black vault of wisdom. And here's the catch. You absolutely cannot buy your way past this tree with material wealth or some kind of performative guilt. It dismisses gold as mere shiny dirt. Instead, it demands a currency of sin. It requires a secret that poisons your own blood. Basically, the foulest act or the most bitter truth that you keep hidden from the rest of the world. When the wanderer even thinks about offering superficial bargains, the tree's leaves literally rattle like dry teeth just to mock him. To survive this test, the wanderer uses a practical exercise, recalling the parable of the hidden forge. Think of a blacksmith whose massive iron foundation just cracks and crumbles under the sheer physical weight of the wicked spikes he hammers in secret. Well, our character will similarly collapse under the structural weight of his own secret guilt if we don't bring it up to the surface. We've got to reject those superficial bargains. We must feed the roots of our being with our unvarnished malice, offering up our deepest, darkest flaws to transform that raw bitterness into undeniable creative fuel. Which brings us to a pivotal cosmic moment. Laughter in the void. Waiting for him way up at the edge of the abyss is the spirit of negation. This entity is essentially a cosmic vampire. Its entire purpose in the universe is to mock all noble truths and human effort, laughing at the idea that anything we do matters, claiming it's all entirely pointless. The spirit's ultimate goal is to freeze the wanderer in a permanent state of absolute nihilism, making sure he never takes that final step toward true, total freedom. Suddenly, the wanderer is hit by the bitter, freezing sting of cosmic abandonment. The wine of total despair is practically forced to his lips. And this brings up a fundamental question for us, right? Confronted with absolute meaninglessness in your own life, will you succumb to the void of the glowing eyes? Will you let that cosmic vampire convince you that just because there's no inherent meaning, there's absolutely no reason to strive for anything?
Well, no way. Instead of crying out for some god to rescue his purpose, the wanderer stares directly into that terrifying abyss, and he laughs back. By absorbing the terrifying void rather than running away from it, he fundamentally shifts the entire power dynamic. Right then and there, he decides to invent his own sacred values. He stands tall as the sole, absolute ruler of his existence.
And that incredible shift leads right into our final stage, the transformed companion. Picture that pitch-black starry abyss again. Waiting for him in the dark is the very entity he met at the very beginning of his journey. You have arrived, the shadow whispers. But it is no longer a threat, not at all. It reveals itself as an integrated devil. You see, it was the shadow all along that provided the necessary weight for the wanderer to develop the psychological muscles needed for this incredible climb to self-sovereignty. The shadow explains its true cosmic purpose with this striking revelation. I am the raw bitterness required for your alchemy. Without my meaninglessness, you would have had no void from which to create. This is a real game changer. The friction of our internal struggles, the pitch darkness of our shadow, isn't just an obstacle we have to get over. It is the only light we have in absolute cosmic isolation. It's the very material we use for our own creation. So here is the sovereign's ultimate choice, the absolute core lesson of this entire framework. You basically have two options. You can flee your devils, in which case you will absolutely be consumed by them. From the inside out, you'll freeze and become a monument to a soul that refuses to evolve, a tragic victim of psychological death. Or you can choose to carry your shadows as companions in the climb. And if you do that, that integrated devil merges with your resolve, igniting the fire of the Overman and creating your very own star of high time. By completely embracing the shadow, the wanderer proves a beautiful, albeit dark, truth. The yellow glow of the repressed, hidden self, all that raw, unvarnished malice and secret guilt we talked about earlier, it doesn't actually have to destroy you. When it's subjected to the atavistic fires of truths and alchemy, those absolute darkest depths transform. They become the actual light of your own existence. The darkness literally becomes the dawn. The journey from the uncanny forest to the starry abyss is one we all have to take if we truly want sovereignty. So as we wrap up, and as you step back out of that forest and into your own everyday reality, I want you to ask yourself, when you face the blank canvas of your own void, what values will you invent with the raw bitterness of your shadow?